I've never had a more like rapidly up and down opinion of a YouTuber where I go from liking them a hell of a lot to really strongly disliking them and back and forth more than the Armored Skeptic. My first interaction with the Armored Skeptic was, oh geez, I don't know if it was 2011 or 2012. He made his channel right at the same time I made this one. I subscribed to him off of his very first video, and I'm pretty sure I remember the number correctly. I was his 67th subscriber. Now I'm probably his, I don't know, 200,000th and then 300,000th, and I'm currently still unsubscribed from him from like a third time because I don't like his content. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the various dramas about him in a second. But I want to mention him as when I first met him. And when I first met him, I communicated just, in messages and DMs and in comments relatively frequently. The earliest absolutely god-awful, terrible videos on this channel have comments from him. He was a really nice guy, and I absolutely believe that as a person, he's a really nice guy. He was really pretty introspective, and what's the word I'm looking for? He really wanted to get at the root of why things were. And he never, ever seemed to be like a guy who ever wanted to be mean. He almost seemed kind of wounded in a way. And the thing is, that's partially the case. If anybody's wondering why we keep having these episodes where Armored Skeptic falls for scams, is because he seems to be an extremely gullible person who's very... I hesitate to use the word fragile, especially since it's something that's been kind of colored and poisoned by feminists as a word. He's vulnerable. Very emotionally vulnerable, trusting, wants to see the best in person, people probably extremely conflict averse. He's not a dude bro or a douche or somebody who's aggressive or violent in the least. And his first video was about him realizing that he had been a member of a cult. And not only that, but then realizing that he joined that cult because he had grown disillusioned with a previous cult. This leads me to believe that Gregory's a very gullible person, which is ironic for somebody with the name Armored Skeptic. Not just skeptic, but one who's possessing of armor. No. This guy, in all of the best ways, as well as many of the worst, is very soft. Very soft. So I had unsubscribed from him before, well before, the Candid thing, which is the first scandal that we got to discuss. And I'm going to try to get through this nice and quick. Because he wanted to do movie reviews. He wanted to expand. He basically was trying to be the next Doug Walker. Like, he wanted to be the skeptic atheist Doug Walker. And I didn't like his movie reviews very much. I didn't think they were bad. I just thought they were boring, which some people consider a worse condemnation. I didn't much care for all of the, hey, look at my girlfriend's shoe stuff. I had subscribed to Shoe and thought she was funny, but she was like, okay, comedian and shit talk bad ideas mode, and she was straightforward, always giving her audience what they wanted, even if her upload schedule was mercilessly and painfully infrequent. She was the far better YouTuber in terms of giving the audience what they want, and then just being good at it and consistent. Not just good, but consistent. Consistently good. Because Greg's made some of the best atheist videos out there that are hilarious. And sometimes he'll make this full production, actual Armored Skeptic video, which is what I want. Because I didn't want his vlogs, although some of his vlogs are very good. And I didn't want his movie reviews. And I didn't want any of his other merchandise or any of his other expanded Armored Media shit or Armored Gregory. I didn't think he ever should have unmasked, but that's something he wanted to do, and he's lucky he's a decently good-looking guy. So whatever. He can do whatever he wants. But he was not giving me what I wanted from him as an audience member, so I unsubscribed. And then I actually tried to back him up on the Candid thing, because I thought, hey, they scammed him. They scammed a lot more smarter people than just Greg. They scammed way smarter people than Greg. And maybe it's bad that he might have doubled down or been defensive of them as a sponsor, but I was so over it, and I thought a lot of the people leading the charge, like Harmful Opinions, were such snarky, arrogant cocks that I was like, oh, fuck off. And then he did the I'm the original Skeptic and everybody's a Skeptic clone, ignoring that the Armored Skeptic is 100% a deliberate and conscious ripoff of Logic, and God bless Logic for calling him out on that. Because that is without a doubt a fact that Armored Skeptic is a Logic clone. Although, that is said partially in jest because they don't present their content in anywhere near the same way. But there was absolutely elements lifted. And then, yes, I think he's not exactly wrong to say that there were elements lifted from him and all the other just overwhelming amount of Suit Yourself and the Satiritician and fucking Anarchy Ball and all those faggots who I don't really care for, but they got their audiences who get what they want out of them, and God bless, whatever. I don't know why I keep using that phrase. Like I said, too many of my friends are religious. Anyway, good for them. I just don't like their content at all, which is a personal statement, not meant to be telling anybody else what the fuck to do. But the arrogance of the way he said it, Skeptic clone, and that sort of condescension, deliberate condescension that was built into him discussing that was a huge turnoff. I got, again, tired of the constant, Snuggle Bunny June stuff, and it's just like, okay, again, not jealous. June's cool, you're cool, you two interacting is less cool than you two by your fucking selves doing, what I signed up for. This, let's late night pillow talk on Skype. Fuck off. But, some people like that, which is why the guy's still really popular. And now people are really, being sympathetic to him about the Francesca Ramsey thing, which I'm really late to, and we'll have to get to that last. But first we got to do, some people, and me among them, were really surprised that he had befriended Francesca Ramsey, but we should not have been, because he tried to befriend Christy Winters, Demotivator Tim, or whatever, I forget Tim's last name, Demotivator Opinion, the other, Michael Rollins, Kevin Logan. He tried to befriend them, and in order to impress them, he shat-talk his peers. He talked shit about us. Whatever you think about the word community, or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean when I say us. People who make a similar kind of content, who have a similar stance towards social justice and religion, or at the very least just social justice. That's what I mean by us. You know that that's an actual category of us. I'm not out of line in saying us, okay? Now, whether or not we have the same opinions about anything else is the same thing as atheism doesn't mean anything other than without a belief in God. Okay, so when I mean skeptic community, I just mean this vein of content. Whether or not that name is appropriate, and it probably isn't, whatever. He shat-talk us to some of the worst, most egregious, dishonest, cowardly, sadistic harassers. Like, the entire shtick of this group of people, Christy Winter's crew, is to harass us and lie about us. That is all they do with their time. That is their community, to try to denigrate and slander us. And he went and said, we suck, in order to impress these scumbags. And then that's when I had to stop giving a flying fuck about anything he did for like 9 months. And then what? I come back and everyone's like, oh, you need to watch this. And I'm like, he made earnest friends with one of the most dishonest, slimy, either crazy or absolutely conniving, dastardly, fucking piece of shit, racist social justice warriors ever. There is quite possibly no social justice warrior more disliked, loathed, and causes more cringe and recoiling and moral indignation than Francesca Ramsey. She is like the great Satan of social justice warriors. You know, there are people that are worse than her, but she doesn't use any big fancy words. She doesn't obscure her hatred and sadism in any kind of pretentious fancy words. She doesn't hide or make herself esoteric. She is in your face hateful. She is extremely terrible. Francesca Ramsey is the most blatant and flagrant feminist. Maybe not the most hateful, maybe not the most bigoted or even the most racist, although she is phenomenally racist. No. There is none more obvious than her. There is none less trustworthy than Francesca Ramsey. And he's like, Francesca Ramsey's my friend. And I didn't know she really thought about... Really, Greg? And then how many times, now that Greg has been under all this scrutiny for all these scandals, he hasn't learned that he's been under all this scrutiny for all these scandals. People keep finding out he doesn't know what he's talking about. He keeps making like 30-minute breakdowns of topics that it's clear he hasn't even read a Wikipedia article about, let alone any sort of legitimate research. And by the way, reading a Wikipedia article is in fact not legitimate research. I reject it as a source from everybody, regardless of their opinion, because Wikipedia is freely editable and is policed by ideologues of both the left and the right, of anti-feminists, bronies, anime-tards, especially feminists, the alt-right. Everybody polices Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not legitimate about anything political, and it's not trustworthy about anything else at all. It's not a source. And it's clear when you listen to him talk about something that it's just stuff he's sort of amassed as an opinion and then passes off as fact. And if he went, as far as I can tell, and then said his whole script, it would have been fine. But he speaks authoritatively. Whenever I talk about something I don't know shit about, I say, as far as I can tell, from a layman's perspective, from the outside looking in, and then I make sure whatever I say is a fair condemnation from that point of view. Where I say that I may not know the ins and outs of this subject, but if I say this, and this is true about this subject, there's nothing else I can know about this subject that would necessarily make this untrue or make it not a fair condemnation. It could be a less, perfect, but it's still bad. Okay? Just because I don't know everything about social postmodernism doesn't mean I don't understand what needs to be understood about constructivism, about the social applications of Marxism, about Marxism itself, the difference between Marxism and socialism, socialism and communism. I am not an expert, but I know enough to speak authoritatively. Okay? Not expert authoritatively, but I'm not telling you something that's not true when he repeatedly would do that. And then beyond that, he has shown a level of arrogance, snark, and him putting himself apart from his peers while constantly seeking the validation of people who would smear him as a Nazi, a white supremacist, an abuser of women. I'm sorry, Greg. You've been nothing but nice to me. I haven't spoken to Greg, directly in more than 2 years, quite possibly almost 4. However, he's never been anything but super nice to me. But Greg, if by chance you ever watch this, I mean this when I say this, you're a stupid asshole. But thankfully, you're not a stupid person. You're willfully ignorant. Either out of laziness, gullibility, or arrogance. The reason why people are so harsh to you is because you're not dumb enough not to know better. You do not qualify for the bigotry of low expectations. It's because you're arrogant, because you're self-absorbed, because you're lazy, that you get shit on. You should know better. And some of this bad behavior of yours is a consequence of positive qualities you have, which is why I don't really take pleasure in judging you. But dude, I judge you super fucking hard because you do have this huge audience. And I think they deserve better from you. Because you pretend at more than you offer. So, strikingly enough, even though Greg strikes me as interpersonally an extremely humble person, you as a YouTuber, the relationship I have with you is audience member to entertainer. You as a YouTuber are the opposite of humble. You're foolhardy and arrogant. And that's why people like all these feminists keep hurting you. It's because you want to see the best in them. And that's a nice, really nice, sweet thing, Greg. But I'm hoping maybe, 15 times bitten, 16 times shy, hopefully by now, you fucking learned that these are sadistic people with severe, deep-seated problems. And they cause almost nothing but harm. They are dangerous. They are sadistic. They're vicious. They're not defensible, and an olive branch is out of the question for many, if not most, if not, depending on the context, all of them. Francesca Ramsey can't be reasoned with. Okay? People like Anita Sarkeesian can't be reasoned with. People like Christy Winters are obviously severely mentally ill. Okay? So you can't have this kind-hearted presumption about them. That makes you stupid and gullible. I wish we lived in a world where we could just hug it out. And occasionally some people like Lacey Green surprise us, even though we should still be very afraid of people like her. Even if she's fucking an anti-social justice warrior, she's still fucking a social justice warrior, if you get my meaning there with the wordplay. Alright? And she has shown every sign of not giving up the behavior that got her into that lifestyle in the first place. Just like you are still getting drawn in by cult leaders. We've come full circle. That's the end of the video. You are still applying to cults without thinking about it, Greg. Stop it.